We are live. Shout out to everybody who is watching. AEW Dynamite just went off the air. The Elite are back together. A very newsworthy show. Tons of big moments. Taya Valkyrie has debuted. Hopefully my audio is working and I'm not muted. If you guys could just give me a thumbs up in the chat, just let me know. Because that seems to be an issue every single time I live stream. If you guys haven't clicked that like button, I'd greatly appreciate it as well. So we're going to talk about it. Obviously, tonight's AEW Dynamite. If you guys follow me on Twitter, if you guys follow me on... Oh, you guys are saying I'm muted? There's no way I'm muted, bro. Okay. I see you guys are messing with me. Yeah, if you follow me on Twitter or even Discord, I was pretty happy with everything. So very, very, very good episode of Dynamite. Obviously, a lot of good things that we'll talk about. But where do we begin? We're going to talk about the Dynamite ending, which was the Elite reuniting together to close the show. And you guys know that I've talked about this so many damn times in the past. I've said there used to be a time where every episode of Dynamite would close in a way where you would get excited for the next week. And it seems like for a very long time, it wasn't happening. Then we get this whole thing with Blackpool Combat Club. And Blackpool Combat Club, after this incredible trios main event, by the way, Blackpool Combat Club going face-to-face with Hangman Page. And just to end the show, what do you get? You get Young Bucks and Kenny coming to the back of Hangman Page. Literally, this is what we wanted for so long. And for so long, we've been asking for episodes to end in a big way, and that is exactly what we got here. I honestly was super satisfied to see the way that they ended this match and the way that they ended the show, because now it's like you have to watch Dynamite next week. You gotta watch Dynamite next week. Maybe we're going to find out even more with Rampage, which obviously would be nice. But the biggest thing that AEW has been missing for the last year is those really big endings that are like, yo, like there's a story going on. This is what's happening, and you gotta wait till next week to find out. And this is something that WWE has been doing really good with lately since Triple H has taken over, and it's something that Tony Khan wasn't doing good with, but tonight was really solid, and I'm really glad that AEW did that. And most importantly, I'm glad that AEW has found a way to really get people excited about Blackpool Combat Club as heels, because it's such a strange dynamic. But obviously, you know, there was 4 guys and 3 guys in the ring. There were 7 guys total. Okay, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about Wheeler Yuta, Cesaro, Claudio, and Jon Moxley. You have those 3. You had Hangman, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. We didn't see Bryan Danielson. A lot of people have been wondering, what's going on with Bryan Danielson? Is he going to be a bad guy just like the rest of BCC? We still don't know. Now there's a storyline here that I want to see more of, right? Now I want to see more of Blackpool Combat Club as heels, and I want to see the Elite and Hangman Page as the ultimate baby faces. Guys, I don't know what the hell just happened with AEW, but they just did something incredible with this, because now we're going to get that reveal of Bryan probably being the bad guy, right? We're going to see Bryan and Kenny and all of these guys in the ring together. It's going to be absolutely insane. Lights out booking. And this is all that we're asking for. This is all that I've been asking for as somebody who talks about AEW, as somebody who talks about WWE. I just ask for storylines. I just ask for big storylines with the big finishes and the big moments. I get it. Like, I love AEW, the fact that they have good wrestling on their show, but I'm not asking for much more than, hey, put the good wrestling with the good storylines. And these were things that AEW were doing before. Like, I'm not asking AEW to do something new, right? And I think that's kind of the biggest thing that annoys me is, like, I read sometimes people's comments, and I'm not asking for AEW to reinvent the wheel. I'm asking AEW to just drive the damn thing, because they know what the hell they're doing. Tony Khan knows what he's doing, and I've been very happy in the last, I would say 12 weeks, AEW has been way more storyline-centric, but they were still missing that really big story that just gets people amped up. And I think this was one of those stories where this is the beginning of the story where I think people will be ultimately really excited about it. And yeah, honestly, that was just like a really cool way to end Dynamite. I did not expect that whatsoever. I think most importantly, what's really cool too is with AEW ending it this way, not only can we get excited about, okay, where does Bryan Danielson fit into all of this, but potentially, what about blood and guts, right? Like, can there be a blood and guts match here? Is that something that could become a possibility? I think of these things and I ask these things because we know that WWE and AEW both do the War Game stuff. They just brand them differently. And the last time that AEW was in Detroit, my city, was when they did Blood and Guts. We know that they're going to be in Detroit for May 10th. While they haven't announced it, maybe they come back and do Blood and Guts again in Detroit. Maybe it's a thing that they start doing in Detroit every year. And maybe this is the big storyline that we get. Maybe this is the big match that we get. I think this could be really huge for AEW. And most importantly, if I'm AEW, I really focus on a way to make this a massive feud for the year. You have tag team matches you can do. Singles matches, you obviously have Bryan and potentially Hangman. You could run Bryan and Kenny. I mean, you can do so much stuff. And with Rampage kind of struggling with viewership, you can start doing some of these matches on Rampage. You could do some of these matches on Dynamite. You could do some of these matches on the rumored Saturday night show that's potentially coming out. What I'm saying is, because of this feud, you can create a very big storyline. And I think one thing that would be really interesting, and it's kind of hard to describe this without having it mapped out completely, but maybe the idea of AEW doing like a Civil War storyline could be really huge. And I think that would be really fun. And I think a lot of people would be interested in that. We're seeing a lot of details in AEW within their factions, right? There a lot of factions have their own thing. We saw it with the Dark Order. And it's kind of a strange thing because Hangman wrestled earlier in the night with the Dark Order, by the way. But now he's home with the Elite. Where does that leave the Dark Order? Maybe the Dark Order is another layer to the story that could be really good. My point that I'm making is Dynamite had an incredible main event match for the Trios Championships, which was House of Black. We saw the House of Black, and we saw Jericho Appreciation Society, and then obviously we saw the Elite. When you have a match end, that great of a match, by the way, when you have that match end and, okay, champions retain, you're really not expecting anything to go down. So that's why I feel like AEW tonight did something really special. I want to see more of that. I think if AEW does more of this, it's not only a big win for AEW, but it's a big win for wrestling. And look at what AEW, and it just makes you think, like, there's so much that could be said here, but look at CM Punk. Where does CM Punk sit with all of this, right? CM Punk could be coming back. Maybe CM Punk joins Blackpool Combat Club. I know this sounds crazy and maybe it sounds far-fetched, but what if CM Punk joined Blackpool Combat Club? Because of this feud and this storyline, that is why I want to see more. This is what we needed from AEW. Do you guys get it? Do you guys get why I say this is why I've been asking AEW to leave us with the big moments? Because then your head starts wandering about potential ideas. Bryan Danielson, where does he fit? Can CM Punk possibly join in? I mean, clearly this was articulated for a while. I think the talent have known for a while that this was going to be a plan. Maybe CM Punk fits right in. My point that I'm trying to make is this was excellent. Excellent. Finally, AEW has a big storyline in the works. It seems like a damn while since they've had something this big. It seems like a very long time. Seems like a very, very long time. And you know Tony Khan's looking at those ratings, and maybe those ratings go up. We'll see what happens. But, dude, I'm so geeked about this. Literally, I don't know what else to say. It's cool, man. It's a really cool situation. I thought Dynamite really delivered, and I thought more specifically that ending. I mean, the show was already good from beginning to end, but I specifically thought the main event was just really, really special. And I thought the way that they went off the air... was just spectacular. Mark Andre Roy says, yeah, instead of saying, why are they doing this? You end up saying, what's going to happen next? And that right there is the big thing, right? That right there is the big question as to, not the question, that right there is the big statement that's being made, you know? That's the big question, the big statement. That's the big thing that everybody's going to, like, that's what we need from wrestling, dude. Look at what's been happening with the Bloodline. And I know people don't want to compare AEW and WWE, but if you look at the Bloodline and what they've done, I mean, I think that right there has become incredibly, incredibly, incredibly significant because Look at how the Bloodline every single week wants you asking for more. What's going to happen? How is this going to happen? What's going to go down? We finally got that story from AEW, which is cool. And not only that, but I feel like AEW did a really, really good job tonight of just in general, the pace of the show. I thought a lot of things, the pace was really wonderful. There were some things I didn't like, obviously, like it wasn't perfect, but it doesn't really matter, right? In the grand scheme of things, obviously MJF is the world champion, and tonight the world champion seems like the afterthought, which I think is kind of an issue, but at the end of the day, I don't really care. If that makes sense, it's not something I'm personally going to complain about. I just know a lot of people will complain about that. MJF being the champion did the Rebar Mitzvah segment with the 4 pillars. Obviously, it was the 4 pillars there standing in the ring. It wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. I didn't like the idea of having Darby and Sammy and Jungle Boy all challenge for a championship opportunity when realistically in the past year they haven't really done anything remarkable or special to earn it. But I get that AEW is trying to do that. I get what they're trying to do, so it is what it is. It's not necessarily the most logical thing in terms of actual setup, but it does make a lot of sense to have the 4 pillars compete together. I don't think MJF drops the title whatsoever, but I feel like when you look at that ending to Dynamite, that right there was kind of the big thing it was definitely the big thing that people will be talking about. People today are not, and it's a good problem to have, but it is a problem. They had Taya Valkyrie debut. They had MJF's Rebar Mitzvah. They had quality TV and that little segment, which I'll talk about that in a minute. But they did all of these different things, and nobody's talking about any of those things, right? Everybody's talking about the Elite and Hangman Page, and I think it's a good problem to have. You just have so many good things going on. People are going to talk about it. For once, I would say this is like the first time I genuinely felt like AEW in a long time has definitely felt like they've been. This is the first time I felt like they've been like really sharp with an episode from beginning to end. Justin Kennington says, who should be the person to dethrone MJF for the Triple B? I mean, that's a good question. I don't know because they haven't really built up anybody for that position. I'm guessing that Wardlow's probably going to go after it next, but again, it's hard to say. I don't know what to expect in regards to the world title because they haven't done a good job of building competitors for MJF. That's just the truth. That's not really an opinion. I mean, it is, but like statistically speaking, when you look at television and the ratings and everything like that, if they had a really strong chase for the world championship, I think their ratings would look different. I think everything about their business would look different. So I just thought it was like a really good situation for AEW to be in. And more than likely, I think this hopefully will result in some more stuff, more good stuff, more positive things, I should say, to be more clear. I think this will definitely lead to, like, this episode should hopefully lead to more positivity for the company, for the brand. Whether or not the ratings and stuff are good or bad, I don't know. Don't really care about that. But in general, it's very clear that if AEW continues to deliver shows like this, it's going to be really, really good. And that's kind of the thing that matters the most, to be honest with you. But we'll see how that goes, obviously. We did get a super chat from Albert Ponce. He says, TK did a good job of debuting Taya rather than taking a loss. Jade squashes a jobber, and then we get a tease with Taya, and the feud can begin to build. Yeah, so Albert, thank you for the $5 super chat. Guys, if you want to leave a super chat, go ahead and do so. It's definitely greatly appreciated. Every super chat is guaranteed to get read on the stream. So yeah, I actually agree with this, Albert. I think they did a phenomenal job bringing in Taya. In fact, I thought they baited us because it was just such a strange way of going about it. Like AEW having, I think her name was Ashley Matthews. I could be wrong. But they bring in a jobber from Canada, somebody who's experienced in Canada. She gets squashed really quick, and that's it. Then Taya Valkyrie comes out. Okay, cool. Taya Valkyrie didn't have to lose in a debut match or whatever it may be. Is Taya Valkyrie going to be the one that dethrones Jade Cargill? Because I think that's a real question to ask, you know what I mean? Like, if they're going to have Jade Cargill lose the belt at some point, you got to decide who's it going to be. Now, the rumor for a while was that it was going to be Chris Statlander. But Chris Statlander was hurt. When is she going to come back? Who knows? I mean, if you really, really want to take the belt off of her, maybe it's just worth it at this point to have Taya do it because she's a credible name. At least in my opinion, she's a credible name. We know she signed with AEW. How that doesn't get leaked or announced or anything beforehand, I don't know. I mean, it's very, very strange. It's very strange that a lot of AEW names who sign never really get reported, but at least as of late. But Taya Valkyrie is joining AEW. I think it's a good fit for her. I did make a video on that too. I don't know if you guys saw, but I made a video on that. So if you guys didn't see it, make sure you guys check it out. There's more details and stuff like that on there. But I think it's a good fit. I'm glad that they didn't bring her in where she's the debut. She loses. I'm glad it was something different from what AEW typically does, because AEW does that a lot. But I will say this, Albert, to add, based on what you're saying, yes, a feud can now begin to build, right, between Taya and Jade. It's only going to be successful if it's on TV every week. If it's not on TV every week, it's not really worth it. So we know that AEW announced that Taya Valkyrie will be wrestling on Rampage. She'll probably beat a jobber, and then she's going to continue to build this feud with Jade Cargill. When are they going to do it? I don't know. But it is something to obviously pay attention to, because AEW right now, for the TBS championship, they need to do something. They need to do something. It doesn't really matter how they do it. They just need to do something to freshen it up. The women's division also is in a very weird situation, because the women's champion, which is Jamie Hayter, is not in a singles feud. She's in a faction feud, and that might be blood and guts type of thing. So I don't know what the hell AEW is planning with that, but Jade Cargill needs to be involved, whether it's against Jamie Hayter or whoever it is. She should be holding the world championship. Somebody needs to come in and take that belt from her. At some point, her streak is going to end. And I think this is one of the biggest things about having a streak. Every streak does come to an end at some point. So how they go about it could really, really, really piss off fans. I just hope they decide to do something good with it. But yeah, thank you, Albert, for the $5 super chat. I appreciate you, bro, so much. Guys, if you want to drop a super chat or become a member, consider doing so. You could also become a member. All you got to do is click that link. Actually, I don't even know if I have the Nightbot thing correctly. Oh, I do. Okay, cool. I forget some of my Nightbot's stuff. Nightbot. I probably need a different bot, by the way, for my live streams. I'm sorry, guys. At some point, I'll figure it out. But for moderation purposes, yeah, it should be one of those things that will help the streams a little bit better too. So if anybody knows any of those really good chat bots, let me know. That would be appreciated. Obviously, I'd appreciate it big time. Justin says, I get strong Goldberg vibes with Jade, but I don't think she's improving. So the thing, Justin, is that everybody's going to have a different opinion on the wrestling aspect of what we watch, and that's fine. Obviously, some people really, really, really care about like in-ring work and stuff, and yes, it is a big part of what WWE and AEW do, but the storytelling aspect and the character aspect of it all is super important. Jade is going to get better as time goes on. The problem is, and this is just the problem, how often is Jade wrestling on TV? And then keep in mind, how often is AEW running the show per week? So, yes, I want Jade Cargill to be really, really, really good at wrestling. But right now, it's not necessarily her fault. She is improving a little bit, in my opinion. But when you're not getting all of those reps in, I think that's kind of an issue. And I think with Jade to really improve, AEW needs to do more. And you're starting to see with AEW, and this is why people wanted house shows with AEW. People want the ability to work. And it's very difficult to work when you're only working 1 day a week. Because remember, Dynamite and for the most part, Rampage isn't live. So, and you got to remember too that it's not really beneficial that she's getting squash matches. So that's just another thing that you got to keep in mind, obviously. Keep that in mind for sure. But we'll see. We'll see what kind of happens with that. I think there could be so much that could be done. But again, It's only going to get done if they do more television shows and more wrestling matches. Man says, what gaming chair do I have? I have eWin Racing. I could throw a link for you if you want to have a discount code. Just use code ANGO, and that gives you a discount. Rob Herring Jr. drops a $10 super chat. I don't understand why they didn't give Ricky Starks the diamond ring and then build up to him taking the belt instead of what they are doing with him now. So that was a good thing. I'm glad you kind of brought this up. They did have a video package thing for Juice Robinson calling out Ricky Starks and why he did it and everything, which is fine. But this is literally Bray Wyatt and LA Knight type of booking, right? Bray Wyatt couldn't afford to lose. LA Knight can't afford to lose. Juice Robinson coming in, feuding with Ricky Starks. He sure as hell can't afford to lose. Ricky Starks can't afford to lose. This is like a long-standing problem in pro wrestling where guys have the ability to be really, really good at what they do and get over with the fans. And then what ends up happening is that WWE or AEW book matches or feuds where people can't lose. And we saw this with Bray Wyatt. We saw this with LA Knight. And it's just so frustrating sometimes because it's like LA Knight is good enough to get out of whatever booking misery comes from being booked with Bray. But it's just like, I don't understand this idea of people getting booked and then losing. You know what I mean? That's the big thing. As far as Ricky winning the diamond ring, Rob, I agree with you. I would have easily done that. I would have done that. I would have pushed that. I would have made Ricky, but then again, they would have, in AEW's eyes or in Tony Khan's eyes, he put himself in a corner because he has MJF holding the diamond ring 3, 4, 5 freaking million times. So this is called booking yourself in a corner. AEW and WWE do it a lot. Triple H and Tony Khan do it a lot. Vince McMahon does it a lot. It's just a thing that is like it's a really big thing. But also at the same time too, like I would say, so like from my opinion, if Ricky Starks wins the diamond ring from MJF doesn't look bad, but for some reason it kind of looks bad, right? Because he's the world champion. So you got to figure out a way to not have MJF hold the diamond ring. So retroactively, you have to change a lot to make it work. And then when you have Ricky Starks going up against Juice Robinson, you don't want Juice Robinson to lose. He's obviously the heel, but you don't want Ricky Starks to lose either. So again, it's just a feud that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm excited about it personally because I think it's going to be a good feud. But it just sucks to see that both guys desperately need to win. Juice Robinson being the newcomer, which by the way, he's been announced as All Elite for a while. All he was doing for a while was working Dark and Elevation. So him working those Dark shows has not been a benefit to him or AEW whatsoever. Okay, now they have plans for him with Ricky Starks. It's just the way AEW is ran. That needs to change because long term that is going to hurt the company in my opinion. You gotta have capitalization off big moments, you know what I mean? So we saw how Dynamite ended tonight. If you don't capitalize on that for Rampage and next week's Dynamite and the week after, you're gonna fail. You're going to fail. You're going to lose viewers. You're going to lose fans because you're giving people what they want and then you're doing nothing with it. It's like the worst tease in the world. So continuity is a big thing. I think AEW should be good with that. Hopefully now, I think Tony Khan will understand that, but we'll see. And it's difficult. It's very difficult. But I'm going to actually say this, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think AEW Dynamite should go 3 hours long. I think so, because I think that solves a huge issue for AEW. Their biggest issue is that they don't have TV time for people. So now this is a solution to that. If they have 3 hours, and, you know, I didn't like 3 hour Raw, but Triple H does a really good job with Raw. Tony Khan could do, if he's doing shows like this, let me remind you, let me say this very freaking clear. If Tony Khan is booking shows like he did tonight for 3 hours, I'm all for it. If he's doing what he was doing last year, hell no. But nonetheless, a lot of cool things. Hey, Rob Herring Jr., thank you so much for the $10 super chat. We got another super chat from Albert Ponce for $5. With Jade saying she wants to work Japan, TK should let her go with Kenny or Brian for a bit to get that real world training, then come back stronger. I don't disagree with this whatsoever. I definitely don't disagree with this whatsoever. I think if Jade is going to go to Japan, that is going to be... It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because she's currently the champion. So what do? Do you have her lose a streak? Albert, if you want to jump on the Discord, let's talk about this. If you want to jump on Discord, let's talk about this because I'm going to ask you a question. I want to hear an opinion. Let me know if you could jump on Discord. If I'm able to get you on Discord on a call, we could talk about this. This would be a good conversation. Because in my opinion, what I think should happen is that if Jade is going to leave, how they make her leave and how she comes back will make the difference. For her to go to Japan, be the champion, stuff like that, it doesn't work. So I think there needs to be a conversation on this. Albert, if you're able to get on Discord, let me know. All right, cool. So Albert's gonna get on, and we'll address that super chat in a minute. Henry says he would watch a 3-hour Dynamite. A lot of people are actually in the chat are saying 3-hour Dynamite would work. I think it would work. I think it would work for sure. I think 3 hours could work for Raw. 3 hours could work for Dynamite. It's not the most. Again, it just depends how good the shows are booked. If the shows are booked as good as they were tonight, I'm all for it. If they're not booked as good as they are tonight, no, I'm not interested in watching a 3-hour wrestling show. I'm just being honest with you. I've said that so many times. I've said that literally, like, even with Raw. Like, the only reason why I watch Raw now for 3 hours is because Triple H has been doing a really good job with Raw and SmackDown. But I feel like it's kind of gotten to a point where at the very minimum, 3 hours could be a really big, boring situation for anybody watching. You know what I mean? It could be really boring. It could be really shitty. But if it's good television, it's fine. I'd get Nate on the call. If Nate wanted to get on a call, I'd be down. A lot of people are talking about AEW tonight in a positive manner, which is good. I did see a lot of mixed reactions to the Bar Mitzvah, which I think makes a lot of sense. Some people liked this, some people didn't. I get it. You know, that type of shit's kind of expected. I just didn't like the logic behind it, but MJF going into the cake was a funny visual too. Three-hour Dynamite is better use of time than 2 useless hours of Rampage and the new Collision show. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree for sure. Rob just dropped another super chat for $5. Do you think AEW will come up with women's tag team belts? Rob, I talked about this on the channel. There are plans or rumors for plans for them to do this. So the plan is for AEW at some point to introduce them. It hasn't been revealed yet. My guess is that at some point they will. Probably this year, maybe by the summer, maybe by Double or Nothing. But yeah, I'm so geeked. Hold on, I'm watching a clip right now for... Gotta turn down that audio. Oh, man. So, okay, for those who didn't see it, basically what they did with the Elite after the show was they had the Elite Hangman turn around. So it wasn't on TV, but when Hangman turned around, the Elites were leaving the ring. So again, they're going to keep building this as a story. That's really cool too. Yeah, but Rob, going back to the women's tag team belt. Yeah, they're going to do it at some point. I'm pretty sure it's going to flop because they don't have women's tag teams. That's the same thing as WWE. I made a video on this on More Angle. I talked about it. I said the WWE Women's Championship belts are the worst thing ever. They're like really, really, really bad. And it's... I don't want to see any company do that. I don't want to see any company do it if they're not going to take it serious. Impact's the only company that seems to get it right. But Rob, thank you again for the super chat. Appreciate you, bro. Seriously. Derek says if Rampage could get an earlier time slot and be like 2 hours, that would be great. I agree. Vashawn Taylor says the thing with a lot of people that loses the feud, you can't rebuild them by putting them in meaningless feuds and having matches just for the sake of it. Yeah, that's always been my complaint though, right? My big complaint has always been you can't just book people for the sake of booking people, booking wins and losses for the sake of it. Like, you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. It's the thing I hate about Bray Wyatt versus LA Knight. And I got so much shit for it. So much shit. And then people were like, oh, fuck, you were right. So there's been a lot of that too. You know what I mean? There's been a lot of those question marks, obviously, when it comes to booking meaningless, pointless shit. It makes me confused, man. It does. Rick, what's up, Rick? Rick Corral has dropped a $5 super chat. You think they're going to do the Goldberg with Jade? If they do, they are going to piss off a lot of people, that's for sure. For sure, people will be pissed off. I don't see a way where people would be happy whatsoever with that. And you got to think, too, if Tony Khan's whole thing is going to be redoing everything that WCW did, he might as well just, like, literally close down, because we saw what happened with WCW. And the reason why AEW always gets compared to WCW is because the comparisons are relatively similar. You know what I mean? A lot of them are relatively similar. Let me get Albert Ponce on a call. Let me see. And by the way, Rick, just to point this out too, if they do the Goldberg with Jade, I think a lot of talent will be pissed off too. By the way, just keep in mind, the reason why I say this is because with Jade, the Jade and Goldberg situation is this. Jade has been built up as this megastar, right? You don't want to book her in a way that looks bad, because if you're talent in AEW and then you're like, oh, well, what if I have a 60-0 streak, right? Only to get the Goldberg treatment. Like, I think a lot of talent would be turned off by that. I don't think they would trust Tony Khan's booking. So I did want to throw that out there. Thank you again, Rick, for the super chat. Appreciate you. I'm gonna add in Albert to address his super chat really quick. Let's see. Just waiting on Albert to join. He's muted. Oh no. Chat, just give me a second. I can't hear Albert. Let me fix this. It might be my settings. Albert, I hear you. You're officially live on the channel, bro. What's happening?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, I feel like a long time no talk. What the hell, dude?
Definitely, man. No, but always good when we get to talk together, man.
I know. So you left that super chat. You said you offered a good idea with Jade going to Japan, possibly with Kenny or Brian. And I just kind of want to hear I want to hear from you verbally about this, because the big thing with Jade Cargill is she's currently holding the belt. If she goes to Japan for 2, 3, 4 months, she can't be the champion, right? We're not going to see her on AEW television. So if you're AEW, if you're Tony Khan, what exactly do you do in this situation to make sense out of it?
Right. So definitely, I mean, like I said before, they did a great job of debuting Taya Valkyrie.
Yeah.
And not having her come in and just take the loss. She confronted Jade, planted the seed, so now they can work this feud.
Yep.
The good thing is that, Taya is a veteran. And so she can work with some of the younger talent, better than Jade can at this point, because Jade is still a little green.
Yeah.
So you have them feud. Taya goes over, and you do a vignette, with Jade, just disgusted. Like she gets rid of, her baddie that's left. She's like, that's it. This isn't working. And with Daniel Bryan, working with her backstage, helping her in the ring, if he comes back, it works either with Brian or with Kenny, because both of them have expressed to TK that they want to go work Japan. It's something they've wanted to do.
Yeah.
With Brian, it's great because he's already been working with her in the ring, so he can take her to Japan. He tells her, hey, you're disgusted? Well, guess what? So am I. You lost, so did I. I lost the big one when I had the chance to be champion. You lost a championship. You want to get better? Come with me to Japan. I'll make you better.
So
and then, they can...
Hold on. So you're saying to make a storyline out of this then?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because, you don't want to do what's been going on, which is not the best booking. Right now, Tony is starting to do things better. He's starting to get back to how things were before. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. And so turning this into a storyline, especially if he can work it with Daniel and Jade, since they already have that connection, it would work.
Okay, so I like this idea. I do like this idea, but let me throw out some challenges or some red flags I'm thinking of, okay?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So one of the things I think is if you take Jade and she loses a title and she goes to Japan for 3-4 months, right? If, let's say, she comes back and she's not good, what the hell happens? Doesn't it squander absolutely everything that they accomplished with Jade?
Absolutely, yeah, yep, absolutely. But at some point, you do need to jump into the deep end of the pool. You have to sink or swim. I feel she has gotten better. She still has a long way to go, but she has improved. She's become more comfortable on the mic. She's slowly starting to get more comfortable in the ring. I think that her going to Japan, if it works out properly, can definitely benefit her.
Yeah.
And make her better, so when she does come back, because the thing that I think about also is, okay, the narrative has been at some point she has to drop the TBS title,
Yeah.
and then the next logical step is to go after the world title. But here's the thing: is she ready? If she loses to Taya in a week, in a month, whatever it is this Jade Cargill ready to go into the big leagues and take on Jamie Hayter, take on, Hikaru Shida, Britt Baker, some of the, more, the better talented women,
Yeah.
and so and I don't think so. And it's not a knock on her. She's just not there yet.
Yeah.
So to me, once she said that, she had that interest in possibly going to Japan, it writes itself. Basically, it does. Because when she comes back and she does have that, and she doesn't have to come back and be, the best, but if she's improved enough where she can actually go, a long time in the ring with some of the better talented women, then when she does come back, that's going to make her even better, even bigger, even stronger, because now she'll be able to sit there and actually wrestle, with some of the other talent.
That's I mean, I get 100% what you're saying, right? And I don't want to discount what you're saying because I do agree. I think it could work out. My biggest fear is Tony Khan has already stated before why it doesn't make a lot of business sense for him to send out Bryan Danielson, as like a business investment. He'd be losing out on a lot of potential money for having one of his top stars go to Japan. Now, I don't know what Jade Cargill gets paid, but imagine you're sending two of these people, two of your wrestlers to Japan for a few months. It just could be in theory, what you're saying could be so beneficial. I just don't think TK would actually do it. And I think maybe this kind of goes to show you that Tony Khan really does need a developmental system of some kind. He needs some kind of training system, some kind of dojo, some kind of something, just for AEW talent to get better, because I think Jade is so good, bro. And I understand a lot of people are pissed and a lot of people don't care for the way she is and in the ring, but she already kills it in promos. She already does a good job when she comes out and makes her appearances. She's not performing on the level of some of these other people on AEW. And it's like AEW fans have this expectation of where these wrestlers should be skill-wise. And I've noticed this is one of those things that pissed me off a lot about AEW, because it's like, if the fans didn't have these crazy expectations for in-ring stuff, Jade Cargill would be able to get away with it on WWE television. You know what I mean? Like, she for sure would be able to get away with it on with WWE television. So, and then you also got to think too, man, what if Jade Cargill gets really, really good at wrestling to the point where AEW does actually develop her and WWE says, you know what, fuck it, we'll give you $5 million a year. Come join us. You know, like if you're Tony Khan, you got to be careful. You know what I mean? Like, you could potentially lose a top star at that point.
Right. No, definitely. But that goes back to what you've said in the past that, now as AEW is now in year 4, it doesn't look like they're going to fold anytime soon. They're just going to hopefully get better and better.
Yeah.
Talent will, go back and forth. But, so with the Jade thing, the other thing that's good is that the fact that they have actually now are getting ready to start doing house shows. And when they first announced it, it was mentioned by a lot of talent that they were pitching this. They want this so that they can get that, those reps in there. So that is another, avenue for Jade as well. But more importantly, and this is something that, I still don't understand how Tony has not actually made this work. So, you have 2 hours, you have 3 hours on TV.
Yeah.
But then you actually have, 2 shows on YouTube. One that showcases dark matches from, taping with Dynamite, and one that tapes in Universal.
Yep.
How are you not using, and I forget whether it's Dark or Elevation. I think it's Elevation that shows the dark matches. But how are you at this point still not using that show to rotate your talent properly? Because you're not going to have the time for everybody. But if you use that show to actually start feuds, continue feuds, and show just in brief, snippets, something that happened on Elevation in relation to the, the TV shows, you could actually use it. It can actually work for you and give you more time for your talent to work and continue, to progress. I mean, the whole storyline with Ethan, Matt Hardy,
yep.
The contracts and everything that started in Dark, and Tony Khan said, if you guys have the idea, work it. If it works, we'll bring it up to, the main show. Why has that not been applied more to other talent, to continue progressing storylines? It's baffling at this point that still is an untapped resource that he literally has to showcase talent.
I hate that you say that though, because you're right, that storyline started on Dark, right?
Yeah. No, they both Matt and Ethan have stated that they went to Tony with the idea, and he told them, hey, if you guys have an idea, work it in Dark, and if it succeeds, hey, we'll move it on up.
Yeah,
and that's how it should be with everybody.
But they need to do a better job of explaining it to fans, because I knew it started that way, right? Obviously, me and you, we watch a lot of this stuff, bro. We watch a lot of wrestling. So we're paying attention to everything that's happening, and then I'm looking at AEW, and I'm like, bro, like, you got to explain some of this stuff to people, because not everybody watches Dark, and it's evident in the numbers, it's evident even with like WWE, and I remember talking about it last year, like on the live streams and stuff, but like WWE constantly is telling you what's happened throughout the night. They've telling you what's happened 48 hours before the show, last week, the pay-per-view. They always do these things where it's like they're reminding you specifically of what has transpired recently, because they're hoping that if somebody's flipping the channels and they don't know what the hell's going on, they know what's going on. And AEW does a terrible job of that. Like, if there's one gripe that I have, forget about stories, forget about quality of stories, forget about the roster, forget about decisions that they make as a company. If there's one thing that they do absolutely fucking terrible with in their company, it's the fact that they don't remind people how stories got to where they were. And honestly, I think the reason for that is because AEW themselves literally don't know how they're getting the story, how they're processing through the story, because everything is just they're trying to progress a story without knowing exactly what the hell they've done to get there. And then they're like, oh, well, we did do this a couple weeks ago, so we could probably just talk about that as a way to justify this. Instead, when you have an actual plan and you're constantly reminding people of how the storyline was built, people will be like, okay, even though this wasn't on Rampage last week or this wasn't on Dynamite last week, at least AEW is reminding me that this happened 3 weeks ago on TV. And maybe, and the funny thing is, like, especially with storytelling, maybe somebody got his ass beat so bad. Hey, this is probably, like, commentary can literally just say, hey, this happened 3 weeks ago on Dynamite. Probably the reason why, so-and-so isn't on TV today. But we'll keep you updated along the way. You know what I mean? And then maybe next week you have that person on TV. This way you can at least, at the very minimum, because you're trying to get as many people on TV as possible, they can kind of justify why somebody isn't on a week-to-week basis while getting other people used. And then one thing too, Mark Andre Roy just said in the chat, he's like, they expect you to remember everything, and it rewards the people that remember everything and pay attention to everything, but most people can't keep track of it all or remember it all. And that's really what it comes down to, is they're doing a really, really bad job of recapping everything. Because here's the funny thing. Perfect example, the Elite, right? Look at what they've done with the Elite tonight. Well, just a couple of weeks ago, it was like on Rampage or Dynamite, there was the locker room segment where Hangman was in the locker room, and there was something to do with the Young Bucks in that. There was
exactly.
I forgot what the Easter egg was. Now
it was the sneakers.
Yes, the sneakers. Yep, the Young Bucks sneakers. So yeah. I remember that specifically, but does everybody remember that? Now, the thing is, like, I'm not saying you have to go back and recap that, but, like, man, at least on commentary, at least point it out, make some sense out of it, because I know this, but does everybody else know it? Like, I've been expecting this storyline build for some time. That's why I enjoyed the ending. But for a lot of people, it's like, dude, like, they don't know what the hell is going on. You got to recap it at the very minimum. And if you do that, like, it goes back to the Jade thing, right? If you do the Jade storyline of going to Japan and coming back, you can air vignettes of Jade training in the ring. The problem with that is that it's always going to make Jade look bad, right? You can do the recaps all you want, but it's going to make Jade look bad. Like, oh, we sent her because she's not good at wrestling. So just kind of going back to that, it just kind of made me think that AEW does two things. They assume everybody is smart, and they assume that everybody will accept what they're doing. And I think that's the furthest from the truth. I don't think everybody who watches it understands everything that's going on. And that's where commentary has to be sharp and try to, like, help you with that. And then I think also I think a lot of people are willing to put up with AEW and WWE's bad booking only for so long. And that's with both companies, you know what I mean? So the more you could keep them hooked, the better it is. You got to assume that they're not hooked, and you got to keep doing something to hook them in. That's what Triple H is doing, especially with SmackDown right now. He's done a really, really good job with the Bloodline. And that's really what it is, right? All you need is one storyline to be so desirable to the point where people are like, okay, I'll sit through the other 2 hours or hour and a half of this bullshit so I can get to that. That's really what it comes down to, you know?
No, exactly. I think a big problem with the Elite storyline is that I think they lean too much on the fact that they assume every AEW fan who watches the show watches Being the Elite. You know, because they drop so many Easter eggs on Being the Elite, but not everybody watches it. But, you know, going back to the point of, you know, doing those little things to keep, you know, talent in people's minds, I think one of the good things they did today, and it was really brief, it didn't take up too much time, was the Acclaimed.
Yes.
You know, they dropped one of Max's raps.
Yep.
You know, and it kind of, you know, touched on things that are going on in real life and everything. Quick, simple, to the point. It reminds you that they're still out there.
Yep.
They haven't given up on their quest to become champs again, and that we'll be seeing them soon. But in the meantime, we get that little nugget. And I agree, if they did little things like that, every now and then they'll do it. Well, they'll actually do vignettes.
Yeah.
You know, and they did it. And Hobbs, perfect example. They were doing the book of Hobbs, and then what happened? They dropped it.
Yep.
For a couple of weeks, and then, you know, we find out that Wardlow was injured during the time when, you know, them and Joe, the three of them, first were going at each other. You know, so that's fine. You know, he gets injured. let us know that so that we understand that this is what's going on, and this is why now all of a sudden we're not seeing Hobbs vignettes. Instead of just letting us think that as always you're dropping the ball and just not continuing.
Yeah.
And so with the Acclaim, it was perfect. It was like 2 minutes. It let us know that they were still there and that they'll be back soon, and that's all you need.
Yeah, no, I'm dude, that's literally well, it's so funny too because the Book of Hobbs, all that essentially led to quality TV. And
Yes.
the only people who are popping at it are the hardcore fans, right? Like the hardcore people that love the dirt sheets are like, "Oh my god, this is great." I to be honest with you, like I've said so many times I'm a fan of QT Marshall, like I think he's good, but at the end of the day, like in order for me to really care about this, like what's the long-term play? Hey, I'm going to watch it and figure it out. You know what I mean? I don't to me, I thought the segment was funny cuz it's just like, "Oh, cool, you're ripping on TMZ. You're doing your thing." I love the picture. He looks like Harvey Levin or whatever with the drink in his hand. It's cool. But like it just would have been nice, like for some sort of explanation. I know like the abrupt ending to Nightmare Factory kind of happened, and then it's like, oh well, Aaron Solo is now still with QT Marshall. Okay, there's probably something to do with that. Very intrigued to see what happens.
And he doesn't even speak. I'm like, what's RJ doing back there?
Yeah, exactly, dude. And I just I don't know. Like to me, I'm curious to see what comes out of it, and like for me to really care about it, like you got to do something. So cool, it's a new story. They're working on it now. Give me something good. We know on Rampage it's going to be Rey Fenix versus Hobbs for the TNT title. Probably going to be a fun match. There's going to be an interesting dynamic there. But like now, more than likely, I think Rey Fenix is going to lose, right? Which is fine. If he loses, no big deal. You can have Aaron Solo or QT Marshall cheat. You can do whatever you want. Not a big deal. I'm not worried about how they book that. I'm okay with Hobbs winning. I don't want to see it being hot potatoed more and more. But like, is this just going to be where Hobbs is constantly doing open challenge and then eventually he'll get back to Wardlow? Like, I hope that's not the case. You know what I mean? But what's the big play, the long-term plan? Obviously, I care about that, and we'll see kind of what happens. But it's obviously hard to say what to expect when it's relatively new. So do I think it could be good? I think so. Do I understand why a lot of people don't give a shit about it? Absolutely. But I just thought it was funny that that QT Marshall, like when you think about it, the Book of Hobbs was such a cool thing with the video packages, and it's like, okay, this was going to lead to, obviously it was inevitable, he got the TNT championship. Okay, cool. But then what it really led to was him being with QT Marshall, which I just think is kind of funny. Like, okay, like hopefully it's good. Hopefully it doesn't suck, because QT Marshall is the one who's talking mad shit about everybody, who's like, they're not experts or whatever the hell he was saying. Oh, you're not an expert. You don't know the inner workings of wrestling. Well, if that's the case, then make sure this is the best goddamn storyline you guys have, because right now that's going to be, it's very, very hard when you think about it, right? Think about this for a second. You got MJF absolutely killing it. You got the trios absolutely killing it with House of Black and all of those great trios in the division. Now you have that
division is on fire now.
And now you have that massive storyline too with the Elite and Kenny and Hangman and Blackpool Combat Club, not to mention the Outsiders, and Britt and Jamie are doing some great stuff. I just listed quality storylines. Plus there's something going on with the Best Friends and Jeff Jarrett, which I know some people don't like that. I personally like the storyline. I think they're doing a really good job with it. So like, QTV has to be fucking massive now, because it's got a lot of competition within its own show. And I'm not asking for that segment or that storyline to compete. What I'm asking for is just for it to be good. Because when you have every storyline being good, the fans win. Now, if it sucks, but you're the one talking a whole bunch of shit to people on Twitter because they're not experts or whatever, and then you have the lowest rated segments, or you have the worst, the worst rated segments and people don't like it, when everything else is good, you don't want that story to be the one that sticks out, which I actually, just so it's on record, I don't think that's going to be the case, because again, I think QT Marshall's good at what he does. I think Hobbs is really good at what he does, and I think ultimately Tony Khan realizes, like, hey, this is clearly a parody, but let's do some cool stuff with it. And I think Tony Khan realizes that Powerhouse Hobbs is a great talent, so he can make it work. The real question is, do they actually make it work? I think so. I think in the long run, yes, but obviously we'll see how that goes down,
Right. Now, so let me ask you something, because I could see QT coming out and being kind of like the Bobby Heenan manager type, right? Where he antagonizes the shit out of everybody, and he's the one who always gets up on the ropes to distract, Hobbs' opponent and
Sure.
takes the bump, and then, but given the current state of AEW at the moment, right? And so we do have all these different storylines going on, and it looks like the world title scene is starting to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
Orange Cassidy is defending every week. At the moment, with the talent that's still available, what do you think serves Hobbs better? He's doing the open challenge on Friday.
Yeah.
Do we see him doing open challenges where, he's taking on mid-card talent, someone that's going to give him a good fight but isn't going to win? Or, where is, unless if it's not Wardlow, do we have that one meaty feud that instead of, just random matches, while he's in his reign, just going through matches, have that good feud that can really, help him cement, his first title run, because I can see him, for me personally, I want to see him actually in a good storyline. I thought that Wardlow, Joe, and him had something good. Then it cooled off because of the injury. Now Joe's in, Ring of Honor. But I'd like to actually see him in a good long feud where, we get to see him show his talents in the ring. QT can, be the distraction on the side. But, I'd rather see that than him constantly like Orange Cassidy, and not Cassidy or even Darby Allin when they were doing the challenges. But, I want to see an actual champion who is in a good feud right now, besides the trios, because that division is now on fire. You have like 6 teams going at it. But for Hobbs, I'd really like to see that one good meaty feud that, he can sink his teeth into and, really give meaning to his reign.
Nah, I'm with you, dude. Literally 100%. I agree, and I think that's gonna be. We'll see what happens. Obviously, it's hard to say with Tony Khan and AEW because it's very unpredictable. At times, it could be really, really good, and sometimes, I mean, you've seen the way I talk about the company. It's like, dude, like they're doing some really cool stuff, and sometimes it's just freaking garbage, and sometimes it's like the wrestling is super good, and then everything else kind of sucks. So it's like annoying, But yeah, man, it's just I'm geeked to see what happens. I think there's a lot of potential, obviously, with AEW, and I thought this was a strong episode. What else was I gonna say?
And I gotta say, and I mean, we kind of talked on this, in Twitter for a minute, but looking at Jeff Jarrett now, I'm seeing him in a different light, right? Because yeah, he's getting title matches when other talent should. He's on TV when, other talent should. But if you look at his matches, he makes his opponents look good in the ring.
Yeah.
And I mean, the match with Orange Cassidy was great, and it made Orange Cassidy look strong, having to overcome, Sanjay Dutt, Satnam Singh, Lethal, who we thought, wink, wink, was injured and everything.
Yeah.
But, Jarrett, he still he makes you look good in the ring. And for his age, it's freaking insane that he still, moves the way he does.
100%.
So, I mean, I get, the guy's been in every company since, Moses parted the Red Sea. But if he's still, putting talent over and he's doing it the proper way, I'm all for it. But like I said in Twitter, let's see you do some of your backstage work now. Let's see those house shows, really grow and develop, and let's see what you can do for the company behind the scenes.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah, no, I agree, Albert. Honestly, I agree. But I think actually what I want to do, because I want to stream some WWE 2K23 My Rise. So what I want to do is I actually want to end this stream and I want to go live. I'm going to post the link in the chat. If you guys want to stick around, we're playing WWE 2K23 My Rise. I'm going to create my guy because I haven't done this yet, and we streamed yesterday on the channel. So I just posted the link in the chat. Albert, I want to talk more with you on wrestling. You know that. So what we'll do probably tomorrow or Friday, we'll have to figure it out. But I'll have you back on the channel. We'll have you call in maybe for some WWE talk too. As always, I love when you're on the channel. I love talking to you, buddy. So yeah, I appreciate you though.
Always. No, same, and same, and something I always say in Discord and on the YouTube, for the most part, we do generally agree with each other, but when we don't on certain things, the beautiful thing is that we can actually discuss it, like actual people, and not, be name calling. We can actually have these conversations, and you do it with other, streamers, and, that's one of the things that I really appreciate about you, that, you do bring other people on, you do, listen to other people's views. So, I always enjoy talking wrestling with you, brother.
I love it, bro. You're the man. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good night. Yeah, and I'll jump on the, I missed the last night, but I'll jump in the 2K23 stream.
Bet, dude. It's actually fun. I don't know. I can't believe I'm doing it, but it's fun.
No, definitely, man. Absolutely.
I'll see you, bro. Thank you.
Okay, man. Have a good one. Talk to you later.
Yep, bye. All right, chat. That was Albert Pons. He's a longtime VIP member of the channel. Really good conversation that just kind of spiraled into something better. So, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually end this stream. I'm going to jump into WWE 2K23 My Rise. We're going to play WWE 2K23. It's going to be super fun. And, yes, make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't. With that being said, the link's in the chat right now. Go ahead and check it out. I'll be there in just a moment. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.